If you are a road traveler, chances are you pulled off the highway to snag some food, find a bathroom, or needed a place to crash. In some cases, this can be harmless. You do your business and on your way you go. Other times you may have gotten the heebie-jeebies driving down a dark, winding road, convinced there was a sign that said gas station, but it's nowhere to be found. Have you ever been to a town, village, truck stop, gas station, or diner during a road trip that just didn't feel right? Like time seemed to pass differently there, or the people there gave you the creeps. What was your experience there? The response will both creep you out and relieve you that you're not the only one. I was with a friend who came up from Mexico, and we were staying a few nights at his grandmother's ranch nearby. Coatesville was the only town around where we could find Mexican ingredients. This is an old steel town that feels post-apocalyptic. Everyone there didn't really seem to be doing anything or going anywhere. It was so odd. The store we ended up going to had nearly empty shelves, and I think the guys were a bit surprised to see us there. All in all, just very strange and eerie. This is my girlfriend's story, but it's kinda up the alley of what you're asking for. My partner went to Florida with her family when she was younger, and they were driving around trying to find some food, till they found a Chinese restaurant. They went in and ate. There were no other customers, lots of staff. Everyone seemed very tense, but the food was delicious. They left and had a lovely rest of their day. During breakfast the next morning, they turned on the telly and the news showed the place they had eaten. And they were all like, "Wow, look, we went there." Then the story started, and it turns out not more than 10 minutes after they left, there was a massive shooting, and all of the workers killed each other. Turns out that the ignorant British tourists just sat in between some kind of Asian turf war. My boyfriend and I had a stay in Melbourne for a few nights. First Airbnb was practically a small hotel room, so all was good. The second, on the other hand, it was advertised as flexible check-in, but the owner wouldn't stop pestering us for a time we were going to be there. We told them 8 p.m. and they still kept asking before saying they had to go out, and Frank would let us in. We had no mention of this guy before then, but fine, whatever. We ended up missing a few small shows we were eager to go to, so we get there earlier, and despite being promised the off-street parking, we could only park on the street. It sucked at first, but no big deal. We've had a long day and we were very tired. Then we got to the house. Frank is this tall, thin, muscly older guy, really intense and absolutely no chill. His eyes are bulging intensely. We were both really uncomfortable from the start, but my boyfriend makes some small talk, jokes about Sydney versus Melbourne. This guy doesn't like it, to the point where he stopped walking, swung around and got in my boyfriend's face. My boyfriend was able to de-escalate the situation very quickly. We got to our room and immediately locked the door. We both got bad vibes off the place and the guy, but we couldn't work out why. We thought we were just tired, but kept debating the pros and cons of staying, and the room wasn't helping. It was freshly painted and the fumes were so strong I was getting a migraine. There was a door to the backyard that was blocked off with a dresser. So much dust under the bed that it was ridiculous. And then we noticed two things. One was a wooden plank holding up the curtains. It was big, thick, heavy looking, and it was holding onto the wall by a nail on each side. Half of it had already leant right off the wall, leaving a huge gap. This was right above the head of the bed. That was it for my boyfriend. He wanted out. The second point was my big thing. The door to the rest of the house had a lock, but there was also a gap between it and the floor. I'm not talking a small space for air. I'm not talking fit a finger underneath. I'm talking big enough for tall, muscly, big guy Frank to fit his entire arm under. I was on a road trip on the South Island of New Zealand, and one night at around 9 p.m. decided to stop in a small town to get some rest. I was already driving into the town when I noticed that there were Christmas decorations everywhere, like decorated trees and plastic Santas and reindeer everywhere. Excessive amounts of decorations on the streets and in every window. This wouldn't have been too weird if it hadn't been in the middle of August, but I thought the town was just really dedicated to a specific aesthetic or whatever. I got to the motel and checked in, and the old lady at the front desk was short and rude with me, which I thought was weird because I had experienced people in New Zealand as very nice and quite chatty compared to where I come from. She also wouldn't give me the Wi-Fi password, even though they advertised free Wi-Fi. She quite literally told me to piss off and let her get back to her newspaper. After that, I went out, and the whole time I was there, I never saw any people on the street. I went to a diner near the hotel, both also stuffed with Christmas decorations, and I had the same experience with the waitress while ordering. She told me they were out of almost everything, and the only thing I was able to order was a cheese sandwich. There were other people in the restaurant who were all eating what I suppose were meals from the menu. They didn't have to order a plain cheese sandwich. While waiting for my food, I noticed that no one in the whole diner was talking, even though there were families and other groups of people present. Even the kids ate in silence, or not really silence, as there was Christmas music blaring. After I was done eating, I just paid and left. I was also the only one leaving. No one in that diner the whole time I was there got up to leave or go to the bathroom or do anything, really. They all just sat there. When I left, I felt like they were all staring holes into the back of my head. The whole time I was in that town, I got a feeling that everyone wanted me to leave, and like they were somehow angry with me, for whatever reason. I'll never know. When hitchhiking in the South Island, I got stuck in a town in the middle of nowhere because no one would pick me up. It got dark and I didn't have enough money for a motel, so I was planning to chill at this little shack where people would pull over to rest while driving. Over the course of several hours, I got offered meth by a couple. Some local random dude tried to convince me to go to his house to smoke weed, and another couple smoked a cigarette with me while they told me about how they heard voices. After they left, I ended up jumping over a fence and slept in a bush somewhere until my sister could pick me up the next day because she was driving through the town. I got off the highway to get gas in Gary, Indiana. Driving through the city was like a post-apocalyptic movie complete with burned-out cars, crazy guy in underwear walking down the middle of the street with a baseball bat, and all the windows were broken or boarded up. I stopped at a gas station, and then the guy came out and said, "Get back on the highway, son. It's not safe here." I had enough gas to get to a safer rest stop to refuel. My girlfriend and I went to an Airbnb in a town called Tiger, Georgia, to see a bunch of her old college friends. There was one other couple who got there about the same time as us. By day, the cabin looks pleasant enough. 3 stories of rustic comfort with a hot tub overlooking the forest and sunrise. We didn't get there by day. We got there as the sun was sinking low. The room seemed to shrink and tighten. The stairwells were only as wide as a single body, and at the bottom of the basement stairs, a rug hid a padlocked trap door. It felt like the start of a horror movie. We're trying to ignore the weird vibes and decide to go to dinner. We spent nearly an hour driving around searching for a place to eat. Steakhouses closed by 7 p.m., an Italian joint which was now someone's house, a Mexican eatery now abandoned and overgrown with vines. Finally, we find something. It's suitably called the last dive bar on Earth, and it's sitting on the edge of a retention pond. The parking lot is full of pickup trucks, all festooned with old political bumper stickers from the late 90s and early 2000s. We head inside. It's like we have entered another decade, but the beer is good, they have pizza, and the prices aren't bad. We eat in a hurry and get out of there. We're trying to ignore the weird vibes and decide to go to dinner. My friend and I took a road trip and ended up camping somewhere in France. First, we stayed at a lovely place near a harbor. After 2 days, we continued and ended up at a small camping site. When registering, we met the custodian. After registration, we already looked at each other, but shrugged it off. We set up our tent and went into town to find some food. The town was completely deserted. No people on the street, all blinds closed, hardly any restaurant open, and the eerie feeling came back. We walked back to the camping site, still feeling creeped out, and decided there and then not to sleep there that night. We broke up camp, drove away as fast as we could. The feeling stayed for about another 30 minutes. The weird part is, nothing creepy really happened. It was just a gut feeling that something was not right there. My aunts and I were on a road trip to visit my grandparents. We were driving almost 3,000 miles to the Northwest Territories of Canada from Portland, Oregon. Most of the drive is long and lonely highways. I decided it would be a good idea to bring along an unsolved mysteries book to pass the time, because reading about murder is always good road trip fun. We stop at a campground and just sleep in the van. I was sleeping in the front passenger seat. I thought I heard footsteps close to the van, but didn't see anything. When I woke up the next morning, I glanced out the window and there was a full face print on the window, like someone had been watching us during the night. Needless to say, I didn't sleep for the rest of the drive. 3 friends and I were on our way back to Sydney, driving from Melbourne, and we stopped at some random rest stop along the way so us girls could use the toilet. We get out and use the toilet, fix ourselves in the mirror, and while my friends were still talking and fixing their makeup, I went outside and had a smoke with my guy friend. I'm standing in front of the car and facing the women's bathroom. The girls walk out from the bathroom and sit on a picnic table and wait for me to finish my cigarette. After about 2 minutes, I see a very creepy man that looked to be in his 50s, thick gray beard and dirty clothes, walking out from the women's bathroom, the same bathroom my friends and I had just used, and never noticed we had unwanted company. We got in the car very quickly, and as my friend is speeding off, I swear I saw this man walking into the dark woods with grass as tall as he was. That was very strange.